Hello there, welcome to a second thoughts overview of Durthu of the Wood Elves. I played through the initial turns and got a real feel for the faction, its strengths and weaknesses basically. I'll talk about these in this video and give you some army compositions that I would like to try later on. Now, as always, this is not an in-depth guide, but will give you a lot of information to play the faction. So let's play with Durthu of the Wood Elves. For your short victory condition, you need to destroy the Barrow Legion and occupy, loot, raze, or sack 30 different settlements. It's a pretty straightforward campaign, as I like to say. The reward is +3 hero capacity for all heroes. Really nice to ensure you can always have some scouts easily, or just to avoid having to build too much to have some heroes. Now, the long victory does change, so you need to achieve the short victory conditions, occupy, loot, raze, or sack 70 different settlements, to win the Defense of the Yoke battle, to perform the Ritual of Rebirth, which basically is this ritual here that you need to conduct here. Basically, you need healing in order to conduct the Ritual of Rebirth, of course. And you also need to perform 8 rituals of the World Roots Healing, which are basically all scattered around. So, yeah. Basically, that's what you need. You'll need 8 of these fully up in order to perform the ritual there. So, achieving this, hero recruit rank +10 to all provinces. It's always nice to ensure, for instance, that your casters have magic, or that your heroes are not really, very weak in the beginning of their lifespan. So yeah, it's really cool. Both of these victories are kind of straightforward, but the long victory will definitely take some time to accomplish. Durthu. He's the Elder, which implies that he gives some abilities to ancient treemen and also treemen units. This passive ability, for instance, Wrath of the Wood, it affects all the armor-piercing missile damage and base missile damage of any allies, so it's a good one to have with missile units, of course. They also get Wall Breaker and Mastery of the Elemental Winds, which affects magic, yielders, and especially for spell singers. So yeah, it's pretty good way of ensuring that you can also have the trees with some elves there to shoot stuff. Now, climate, non-existence. You can go anywhere. This is one of the beauty of this campaign. Nothing is troublesome for them. They can colonize everywhere. Of course, mostly only around the trees is important, but of course you can dominate the whole map and have it very green, basically, as you wish. So yeah, definitely one good campaign for domination. Your starting province is in Athelloran. It's great defensively exactly because of that. Attrition alone is enough to cause a lot of pain to any enemy that dares to enter here. Typical expansion in the case of Durthu is actually to go north towards the Barrow Legion and to take them out. Then it's up to you for any long victory, as you'll need to tend to the forests. It becomes quite a sandbox style after that. More on that later with the mechanics. Now, allies and enemies will be influenced by how you proceed in the campaign. The Wood Elves are quite unique in that matter. You'll see how a little bit more as well in terms of the mechanics. So in terms of alignment, you're typically an order focused. However, remember that you actually start at war with a dwarves faction. Now, just like with the Orion, your faction may be hated by everyone very easily, or you can be friendly with everyone. Be careful who you befriend and who you attack. Outposts will definitely be possible with many others, but Bretonnia and Empire feel pretty obvious, considering that you're going to be fighting vampire counts. They're going to like you for that. So yeah, some artillery and powerful cavalry should be a nice addition, as well as any flying units. Let me show you. Basically some cavalry, some flyers, maybe some artillery as well that you miss out. Some artillery here from the Empire or their Demigryph Knights. Nothing too shabby, of course. These units, even 4 Demigryphs will do so much damage, or 4 Hippogriffs, can you imagine. So yeah, definitely a lot of good combinations to try out. First and most importantly, the trees. It's all about these big, massive trees, as you can see here, the areas. Now, they work in a couple of circumstances. So let's talk about the first one. First, the neighboring regions will need to be cleansed, basically. You'll need to conquer them to obtain them to ensure that they are going well. Their roots are spreading here. It's owned by an enemy, so they don't like it. That way, you need to conquer this place and ensure that it is well done so that the roots can heal. Whenever you gain that, so of course you will start gaining forest health, and that will increase the bonuses that you can get here. These are all different for all the trees. So for instance, this one focuses more on casualty replenishment rate for your units. This one focuses more on allegiance points gained. This one on research rate and diplomatic relations with Dark Elves. So you can see how you can influence the game depending on which one you select to go and cleanse and assist. Now, once you do that, once you reach the final level with 500, you can do the Ritual of Rebirth. Basically what it does is to allow you to construct the level 5 building there with great benefits faction-wide. The Wood Elves can get so many benefits that it's crazy. They'll just become really good in the end, typically. So, that's how these work. It will imply, of course, having to face different enemies in different areas, so you're not expanding the same way. You're expanding around the trees, you're fighting around the trees, and it depends, of course, which enemies you're fighting there. So yeah, it just gives you an amazing replay value because you can go anywhere where you wish. How do you go? Let's talk about that one. So how do you move is precisely using the deep roots here. So basically you can move in and you can decide to teleport to a specific tree, of course, but it does have a long cooldown, so be wary of that, of course, to ensure that you send, you know, a force that can be on its own for quite some time. That's typically how it works, very simple. Now, you also have Ember, a very straightforward currency, basically. It's earned each time a Ritual of Rebirth is completed, healing a forest, okay? And that will also be useful for these specific technologies, which again consist of severe buffs to your faction, which, you know, it also adds to the specific playthroughs that you can have. You can customize it so much that you'll never get bored playing in a different manner with the Wood Elves, you know. Now, in terms of the one of the other mechanics is the Sword of Cain. Now, specifically for the Wood Elves, they're such a on their own faction that it's an interesting campaign when you decide to go for it. And Durthu with the Sword of Cain is something to be reckoned with. I doubt anyone can actually face Durthu, really. Even Scarbrand would probably have a tough time against Durthu with that sword. But of course, remember the diplomatic issues with them. Still, you're one of the factions that can deal with that, honestly. Now, offices. Offices are just specifically army or lord buffs that you can see here. So first, I can assign these ones already. Okay. Oh, for this, I'll need to be required one. Okay. Elves are not permitted. Ah, okay. So I can only have ancients. Yeah, I forgot about that. So you can see these buffs that we'll have. You can build up among them. Of course, for instance, with the growth, the upkeep, casualty replenishment rate, some abilities that you can have. So, of course, these all change up how it works, and these offices are actually different from the other Wood Elves. So, for instance, different from Orion. So, pay attention to those and try to build up, you know, something rather different for your armies. I had forgotten that these were now different from the offices from the Wood Elves, actually, from the Orion Elves now. Finally, you also have access to Ariel. So Ariel is a unique spellcaster. She'll do great in any army, basically. She has a lot of different abilities. They're really good in battle. She reminds me a little bit of what's it called? Well, Croak, of course. So yeah, with all her abilities, anyone trying to face her off in battle will suffer, definitely. And of course, it will help out a lot your army. So just stage her into any army and she'll do so well. It's I would recommend that she's not with Durthu, honestly, because it's not like it's necessary. She already will do great deeds with anyone else, so you'll have two armies that are really powerful just because of two characters. So as for province edicts, you do not have them. You already have quite good bonuses, really, with all the trees and rituals of rebirth. So why need those? You know, you can consider maybe the minor settlements as having some sort of edicts because of their buildings. More on that later on. Now, in terms of army stances, basically you do have the world routes. These are great to traverse different terrain going underground. It's really cool, and it also gives you immune to attrition, so don't worry about that. Now, you also have encamp for 50%, immune to most attrition, enables replenishment. Do note, there's an ambush defense chance extra, and this is important, especially because this is useful against beastmen or against those factions that trigger an ambush when they attack you. Always consider being in camp. That reduces severely their possibilities. Now, you also have raiding, so typical one, immune to most attrition, campaign movement range 50%, of course, and it raids, it gives all those penalties there. Ambush with 10% cost only, okay, and very reduced chance of being detected, so you're really good at ambushing, make use of that. And of course, the typical forced march, nothing to see there. In terms of buildings, here in Arguilon, in Waterfall Palace, you do have a specific one, Arthur minus construction cost for all buildings and recruitment cost for all 3 kin units. Pretty good, you know, at level 3, so that's an interesting special building that you can have there. Now, in terms of the buildings themselves, outside of the trees, you actually have nothing, so be sure to confirm that you do have, you know, 9 slots here, so be wary. You cannot build everything, so you have to choose. Okay. In terms of your settlements, you also don't have any walls, so they do have some specific building slots for defense, but you know, for the most part, you may not need them. They are really well defended already with attrition, honestly. Now, you need 5 or 6 actually with the caster building, but 5 buildings for most military. Of course, all of them need to be easily built in one province. You do require an armory for some units, such as Blade Singers and Wild Riders with shields there, you know, and some Glade Riders, etc. Some units you will need this armory, so be wary of that. Now, all of your provinces will actually be very powerful, expensive, but profitable. In terms of infrastructure, you do have an income, growth, casualty replenishment rate, also some production, that's nice. You have a massive income building here with some wine resource production, and some income building again with a lot of different trading resources as well, and some controls, some growth to all provinces, so be wary of that. So this is excellent to have at least 1 or 2 to get the growth, and growth for your armies should be for your provinces should be really great because of those. They kind of act like an edict, really. So yeah. In terms of the minor settlements, let's speak about those. In essence, of course, some of them will have resources which you can build, and that's good. But for the most part, you have these all provinces growth. See there, the armies in the region for casualty replenishment rate. Or you can have some more growth and recruitment cost and global duration in armies in the region. Global recruitment duration, sorry, for -1. So it helps you keep going. You know, it helps you that you can recruit units if anyone died. So by all means. Control in all adjacent provinces, corruption in all adjacent provinces, you know, income from post-battle loot. You can see how these, like I stated before, kind of work like edicts. You know, they kind of work like edicts, such as like the Beastman ones. So they're a very good change on this behalf. So, for instance, if you really want to start construction around this settlement, by all means, build this one. It will have a little bit of a bonus there. So yeah, it's pretty cool. In terms of research, it's very good. It gives good campaign buffs overall, some controls, some campaign line of sight, of course, some line of sight over all magical forest regions, of course. So there's specific ones that you should pay attention to. The ones that require Emba are so significant, you'll need a lot of thought in terms of which one you'll want first. Do you want less upkeep for Dryads, Treekin, and Treemen? Or maybe you want recruitment duration, -1 turn. Or maybe you want some more income from settlement buildings in expert charge defense there for Eternal Guards. Maybe you want just this bound spell of Flock of Doom to all Ancient Dream Lords. It's really up to you which one you choose. Remember that the Ember, you'll have to choose where you use it, and of course you have to give it a little bit of thought. That's my point. You do have to give it just a little bit of thought in what you wish to research. Pay a little bit of attention to it in the beginning, and of course, choose whatever fits your playstyle, of course. So as always, we have the Lord specific buffs that we can get, the skills, the yellow line, or basically the melee line or the range line. You also have the caster line, so of course, Durthu is also a caster, as if it wasn't enough that he's a beast in combat. Then we have the red line and the blue line or campaign. Now, let's go with the blue line first. They do have 15% casualty replenish rate. This wasn't changed, may have been overlooked. So from Warhammer 2 to it lowered to 6%, and now it's still here, it's in 15%. So you can imagine how effective that one is. You do have also the upkeep reduction here, so yeah, that's also nice, and some more upkeep reduction here, some campaign movement range. It's up to you which one you decide to choose. Nothing too out of the ordinary in the beginning ones, so other than the ambush with missile strength during ambushes. Of course, if you plan to do a lot of that, by all means. In terms of red line, it appears to be mostly around elven units and tree units, basically. So, of course, with Durthu, you probably want to go for the Treekin and Treeden, all in all, but nothing wrong with you having the benefit of some Eternal Guards or some other units, of course, by all means, Now, you do have 4 heroes. Let me show you here. You have 4 heroes with, the Glade Captain for some mobility there, and of course his own abilities. You do have the Branch Rate, which replenishes troops. This is excellent, specifically because it also fits the theme of Durthu, just have one in all of your armies, basically. You do have the... I was forgetting here, the Waste Stalker, a really good ranged hero. It's really excellent. And you also have the Spell Singers, one of Shadows, one of Life, and one of Beasts. So it adds a lot of good ideas, and note that all of them are tier 2, so that means you can just recruit them much faster than other heroes from other races, which is excellent as well. So here are all the red line skills and the units it affects for the Wood Elves. Some keynotes are they're all missile units are nearly in one. And then there's the division between the elite infantry as well and in the trees. It's not the best actually in terms of effectiveness, but it's useful still. Now, Durthu in specific has amazing skills that favor all treekin, everything that is a tree, of course. It has so much stuff that affects the army that it's really cool. Most of it being the ancient treemen and of course the treekin, so by all means have some armies based on those. Here's a few with some Waste Stalkers, some Forest Dragons. He also benefits less upkeep for Forest Spirit units. That includes a Forest Dragon, so be wary of that. Be mindful of that, actually. Nothing wrong with having, just a flying force, perhaps, or just the basic, let's have some cavalry, to support as well instead of those Forest Dragons. It's up to you. Notice how they're rather effective, but you'll need to spend so many skill points overall with Durthu, so you have to pay attention to that as well. Now, in terms of the branch wraiths themselves, of course, they also favor some treekin units. This is more of, let's say, a starting one. You can change these for Glade Guards and this for anything else. And this is a good army to start up, And this is, more of a jack of all trades army. Have something, a single entity, some flyers to deal with other flyers, some good flyers, some good infantry holding infantry, and some good missiles. Nothing can go wrong with something like this. Also note then basically some other compositions that you can have. Some of these are like sweeper armies, less stronger ones. Basically these are just to conquer minor settlements or just face off against less potent foes, basically. So yeah, but nothing wrong with having some combinations with elves as well. Note as well how expensive those are. That's what you need. So as in, if you're going to have some of these compositions, just make sure that you know what you're getting into. Or maybe that's temporary. It's all up to you. A note, of course, with the lords and heroes. I always like to have like a caster hero, or at least the lord, of course, and a melee hero. But nothing wrong with you having different selections. Maybe more heroes in one army, maybe none. It's up to you. Just ensure that you have a plan for it. That's always my point. So, if Orion was all about the elves, Durthu is definitely all about the trees. It gives them tremendous abilities to the point that they can withstand almost any foe. In addition, going against a specific faction with the Barrow Legion in the beginning, in the early game, it does make things interesting. Should create a different idea of allies and enemies just with that in mind. You're also against the dwarfs, so who knows, this creates an issue with you in terms of the Order Tide. Maybe you'll turn evil, maybe you'll go for the Sword of Cain. That sort of idea that should be in your mind. Who knows, you'll become a great evil tree, in essence. Well, evil is a figure of speech. You know, the people living in the forests will always consider you a good person. Well, not a person, a tree. Your army, it does consist of good infantry, great missiles, some of the best in the game, a good cavalry, good monstrous infantry in single entities. These can be great under Durthu, really. Decent flyers, they lack some form of artillery, of course, and they may be micro-intensive. Oh yes, you'll be wary of that. That's a big issue with the Wood Elves in general. Replenishment is good, plus the climate, it really helps out with Durthu's faction. Remember that there's no issue with climate anywhere, so that's really cool. Now, I believe now it is time to follow the Elder Durthu into battle.